Hello, and welcome to Fan Theory Queries, where we analyze fan theories from all over the internet, but mostly Reddit. I'm Spencer.
I'm Michael.
And I'm Blythe.
Blythe, welcome back to the show. Hey, everybody. Blythe is our official fill-in for Laura.
Yes, very big shoes to fill. I am very glad to be here.
Her shoes are probably about average size, but Laura's a little under the weather. Her voice is a little scratchy and just wouldn't sound the best, so we want to give you the best product that we can here at Fan Theory Queries when we talk about fan theories, and that's what we're going to do today.
We have a good theory to talk about today, too. So this theory is about Rogue One of my personal favorite Star Wars movies. I think it's one of the best ones they've done. And this theory is from user A Quirky Soul on Reddit. They say that the Battle of Scarif changed the nature of the rebellion. So, intentionally leaving the show Andor out of this, though nothing so far in that show contradicts the below. However, go watch it because it's fantastic. In post-Disney reboot lore, the rebellion is shown to be quite a bit darker than the original trilogy and its idealistic heroes. Examples: Cassian Andor's introduction, shooting an informant to avoid the dangers of a loose end; Saw Gerrera's slow descent into paranoia after fighting the Empire for his entire adult life; and the Alliance sending Jyn Erso on a mission to find her father while giving Cassian Andor orders to kill him when he was found. It's clear this is specific partisans within the rebellion rather than the whole organization. For example, Cassian Andor's orders to kill Galen Erso were given quietly after the meeting by an intelligence officer, Davitz Draven, according to my research while writing this, and was not necessarily sanctioned by the entire rebel leadership. That being said, prior to the Battle of Scarif, the rebellion clearly has its share of spies, assassins, and other Black Ops assets. Pivotally, the grim realities of being a partisan in a guerrilla war and speculation, a desire to rise above the casual evil of the Empire, has started to weigh on Cassian Andor and many of these Black Ops agents, which is why Cassian is able to recruit them for the mission to Scarif. Critically, the Scarif mission was aligned with the rebellion's stated values rather than the guerrilla work that had previously been their only option. Successful, they accomplished their goals and showed that the rebellion could achieve major victories outside terror tactics and espionage, and completed at the cost of their entire ground team of Black Ops specialists. Suddenly, the rebellion has a new way of waging war, appealing to idealism rather than vengeance. Not only that, they need to adjust. They just lost their most competent and trusted Black Ops agents. They've lost a chunk of their skill set while also taking the lessons of the Rogue One team to heart. They can't just fight the Empire. How and why they fight is important too. As a result, just as the original trilogy starts, the rebellion aligns itself into the gallant and heroic freedom fighters of those movies. Thanks for reading.
You're welcome.
Yeah, so that was a lot. That was a lot of information, and it was kind of jumbled around, but I think we can all kind of ascertain the overall idea behind this theory, which is that prior to Rogue One, the rebellion wasn't scared to like really get their hands dirty and really do some shady things in order to fight the evil Empire. But after the Black Ops team that we see in Rogue One, spoilers, all gets killed at the end of the movie. They sacrifice themselves on the mission to complete it. Then the rebellion decides they need to maybe shift their tactics a bit and be a little bit more above board with their operations and missions, because otherwise they're becoming pretty much like the Empire themselves by doing these kind of shady, slightly evil things, you know? So, yeah, so what do you guys think about this?
Blythe, go ahead. Do you have any initial thoughts?
Well, I like this theory. I think that watching Rogue One and then I know they said they're intentionally leaving out the show Andor, but I think agreeing with the fact the show is fantastic and it really is setting up a lot of the things that are happening in Rogue One. Seeing the choices that have been made through Andor and through Rogue One, and how there's a stark difference between that and what we saw in the original trilogy. I think this is a really great explanation for that shift because, I mean, this battle was pivotal to the whole plot of what we've seen in Star Wars so far.
Everything that comes after this wouldn't have happened had they not succeeded.
Yeah, and I
Yes.
just love how seamless it was, like the transition at the end of this movie.
Yes.
Yeah.
Into
Oh my goodness. It was beautiful.
New Hope.
Beautiful.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
We go from, in my opinion, what is hands down the best scene with Darth Vader at all in anything we've seen so far, straight into the, like you said, the transition into the opening scene of A New Hope, and that for me just like, honestly, if I didn't have the rest of the movie and just had the Vader scene into the transition into A New Hope, I would still say that this is one of the best Star Wars
I mean,
movies.
when we saw that in theaters and that happened, we're like, wait a minute, what is that? This is happening now?
Yeah.
What? It was so
I was
cool.
shocked because Blythe and I
Yes.
went and saw this together the first time, and we were just like trying not to jump out of our seats because we were so excited at how flawlessly
Yes.
it was done.
Yeah, it's
I mean,
it's crazy
it really
because
was
I've only seen this.
chef's kiss.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I've only seen this one time, so I really need to see it again.
We can watch it.
Okay, but Blythe, you have a good point about. Well, you're talking about how I haven't watched Andor either. But even looking at the state of things in Obi-Wan, you can see, how
Yeah.
things escalate. Because in Obi-Wan, they're so, you're so scared and timid, and everyone's in hiding, and then they slowly, I guess, you look at how things are in Andor. I'm assuming things start to escalate more, and then you see where things are at in Rogue One. And I mean, if there's going to be a place where things shift, this would have to be it.
Yeah.
Now, just because of there's nothing else left to fill in the gaps after Rogue
Right.
One because we see that transition happen. So
Yeah.
the only thing left to really determine with this theory is if the specific battle is what made that happen. Rather than it just be a natural progression from one extreme to another.
Yeah, I
True.
agree. And honestly, my personal opinion, I think it is this battle that makes the shift.
Well,
It is little bits and pieces of what happens throughout the movie leading up to this battle, but really, this battle is the penultimate moment. This is the moment where everybody on the team, whether they'd done shady things prior to this or not, really kind of came together and started to show the rest of the rebellion those ideals that they had learned over the course of the movie, and basically set an example for how the rebellion should conduct itself in the future. So I think that their sacrifice was like the final, for lack of a better phrase, the final nail in the coffin to really shifting the direction that the rebellion takes.
let me ask you this, and maybe either of you know, are any of the events in this movie mentioned chronologically after this? So I know we have all of the sequels, and then we have the Disney sequels, and then of course there are books and stuff. Is any of this mentioned anywhere else?
So, no, I will say that in the original trilogy, this isn't really mentioned. There are some things that are hinted at, but that was kind of a retroactive. Like they knew that it was talked about like offhandedly in the original trilogy, so they wrote into this movie those things to make it like, oh, this is how it can connect. It
Gotcha.
was kind of an after the fact connection.
Yeah.
But prior to this movie being made, no, there wasn't really anything connecting this to these events
Wasn't
to the original trilogy.
wasn't really the only mention in like the title scroll where they talk about what happened leading up to episode 4, basically. Like, it's just like a little comment in the title scroll.
Yeah, it's literally I don't remember the exact words, so don't ream me on this, Star Wars fans. But it's essentially something like many lives were sacrificed to capture these plans or whatever that Princess Leia is now transporting or something. It wasn't that exactly, but something to that effect.
So it's almost
it was like an offhanded mention.
It's almost like Rogue One as a movie is a giant fan theory of someone coming along and filling in the gaps of what led into the original trilogy. That's fun. That's a fun way to think about it. It
really is, and honestly, that makes me
that.
love the movie even more. Yeah. I think that's fantastic, and I think that if they had followed that same structure whenever making the sequel trilogy, that those movies might have been good. Like they might have actually had the same level of quality that Rogue One had if they had followed that structure.
Well, I mean, thinking about the quality too, I think part of it too is the quality of this film, of Rogue One, and the quality of the writing is what helped that seamless transition from, the darker part of the rebellion to what we saw in A New Hope. Because if you think about it, you kind of need to see that progression as well. If you think about, when a rebellion first ignites, when it first starts, you're kind of, it's kind of out of desperation usually. And so you kind of make those bad decisions. So I like that we saw that kind of grittier, darker version, but then we now need something to make the original trilogy and what the rebellion was in that make sense. And I think if they hadn't done as great of a job as they did with this film, I don't think that would have had that seamless transition. But I also love the thought of this battle and the sacrifice of Andor and those people as kind of being like this symbolic
like
sacrifice of that version. Yes. Yeah.
The Battle of Alamo.
It really is.
Alamo, they didn't win the battle, but it launched, it was a rallying point. It really shifted the tides. But, it's cool. You really can see, you did a good job of explaining it, Blythe, but like the progression of the rebellion because when you're scared, you do lash out. When you're scared, you're backed into a corner, you are messy, you are going to make mistakes. But then you get to this point and you see what you can accomplish. I can see like this is a great place of, look what we can actually do. We actually have a shot at this thing.
Yeah.
And so that can also change your mentality of, okay, well, I don't have to be cornered anymore. We can be smart about this and plan these things and have a different approach and actually win. So cool. Well, I wonder if there are any good comments about this.
Yeah, let's jump down and read some of these. From user Skodo, they say, I like it. Plus, I think Scarif was a galvanizing force for the Alliance, seeing itself as a single organization instead of what it was before the mission, a disparate group of people with bones to pick with the Empire. Rogue One did a good job at showing how tenuous the Alliance actually was before episodes 4 through 6, and how they could only achieve missions like Scarif when they were all pulling in the same direction. I think that kind of summarizes what we were saying. That kind of hits it right on the head right there.
Yeah.
And I know the original user, the OP, actually said not bringing Andor into it, but I am going to bring Andor into it for a second. Without giving any spoilers or anything away, we really do see in that show what this commenter said about a disparate group of people with bones to pick with the Empire. There were so many different forces that hated the Empire that were trying to go against them and stuff, but they weren't working together at that point. They were all they all had their own agendas. While the agendas were adjacent to each other, they never fully aligned, and so it wasn't always as successful. And so, yeah, once they had this mission to Scarif and everybody got kind of pulled together and worked together for once, it really proved that this rebellion could stand against the Empire.
Yeah. Well, hey, I use the example of the Alamo, but Michael, look at comment from Audible Nod.
Yeah, from Audible Nod, they say in Andor there was a major event that was akin loosely to the Boston Tea Party, a single act not intended as an initial act of open rebellion, but a warning shot that they know a fight is coming if things don't change. And like the Boston Tea Party, they had disguises and didn't directly engage in combat. Scarif was loosely again Lexington and Concord. We're ready to fight, and we can prove it now going forward. Furthermore, the new proclamations about lengthening prison sentences parallels the Intolerable Acts. There won't be a one-for-one lineup with the rebels and the American patriots, I don't think, but it's a good template.
I like that.
So, yeah. Yeah, that's a really good comparison.
Yeah, I like that. It helps, for people who maybe not have seen all of the Star Wars stuff to fill in the blanks. It kind of helps put everything together.
Yeah. So from user Nate, or N8TGEGR8, I'm assuming that's Nate the Great.
Yeah.
They say, I appreciate that you put effort into this, but like the movie makes this shizzle explicit.
I don't know. I mean, I guess I never really thought of it in that context. Like, I just thought it was a cool movie.
Yeah.
But I never really thought about, it's just one of those things where I never think about, the progression of this and that, especially whenever you do watch Rogue One, you didn't have Andor or Obi-Wan or any of those other things.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I definitely didn't think about the deeper thought process behind why they were doing what they were doing and how they did it. It was just like you said, it was like, wow, this is awesome. That's all I was thinking.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it was such a different experience than we had ever had up to that point with Star Wars. From the cinematic point of view, it was the first time we got to see something that wasn't just directly influenced by George Lucas, and so we got to see a little bit of a different style of storytelling in this film. And Gareth Edwards, just absolute genius, and the way he approached this was so good, and he kind of set the precedent for everything that came after. And
yeah,
some things got close to that level. Some things were way off the mark. So I think that if for any future Star Wars projects, if they would follow a little more closely along the lines of what Gareth was doing with Rogue One, I think they'd be a lot better off.
Yeah.
Personally.
Michael, I think we've got time for one more.
So this last comment is from user Bad Loss. They say, I also think the battle pushed some of the reluctant factions over the edge into open rebellion. The alliance at the start of Rogue One is really more of a dissident political faction, and they refuse to go to war because they're still hoping to work things out in the Senate. Rogue One gives Admiral Raddus the excuse he needs to start a full-scale war, and after the Death Star is revealed, there's no turning back. The rebels join the war reluctantly, but once the war has started, they have no choice but to fight it out.
Yeah, I like
So
that
almost
point.
like putting it into real history, almost not exactly, but like a Pearl Harbor kind of thing.
Yeah, that's a good comparison there.
Yeah.
It's the excuse to join, even though they don't really want to. Cool.
Yeah. Okay. I don't know about you guys, but I think I'm pretty much ready to rate this thing.
Yes, I am.
Okay.
Yes.
Cool. All right. Let's take a quick break, and then we'll rate it after we get back.
Wait. I'm gonna interrupt you. Can I interrupt you?
Okay.
Okay,
Go
I'm gonna
for it.
interrupt you. Okay, so hey everybody, we have a Discord that we have a lot of fun discussions on,
Oh, yes.
like about what is the best soda, whether it's Dr. Pepper or Coke or whatever. We had that discussion today, or
But it's
Pepsi.
Dr. Pepper.
the intriguing question: do you eat pickles in the movie theater? Oh, and we also we'll discuss theories sometimes, or get
Yeah.
on to people for not listening to the episodes yet, because then we can't talk about theories until they do. So anyway,
Yeah, and sometimes we have people bring up points that we didn't think about when we were discussing a certain theory on an episode, and so we can kind of expand on what we talked about and maybe see something from a different perspective.
yes, and I love it when that happens. And the reason why
Yes.
I'm pushing this now is because in order to do that, you need to be a patron. So go to patreon.com/fantheoryqs, and you can join that Discord for only $3 a month. $3 a month
Yeah.
gets you unlimited access to that. And we're really trying to push that because we would like to hire an editor to edit our episodes so we have more time to do other things like really engage in social media or pursue
Yeah.
other extra kinds of things. We've gotten kind of busy and things have shifted, so we just don't have the time that we do or that we used to have. So any extra amount that you can head or give our way towards Patreon to join that discussion will go towards an editor that will free us up to do other things. I'm basically talking in circles, saying things I've already said. I don't think there's anything left to be said, other than Michael, tell us how we rate this theory.
On it. The highest rating that we have is genius. This is reserved for only the best theories, which we believe are better than the actual canon. The next step down is plausible. It's a good theory, it's believable. Unlikely is next. It's not a terrible theory, but pretty unlikely, as the name suggests. And then the last thing is preposterous. These are the theories that are just stupid. Basically, we're all dumber for having listened to them. Alright, so who wants to go first?
I'll go first. Or Blythe, do you want the honor of going first?
Sure. Okay. Man, I'm feeling a lot of pressure.
I'll go first if you feel pressure.
Okay, yeah,
You
you
good?
go first.
Okay. I mean, okay. So until that one comment, I don't know. I'm still gonna rate this genius, because I can't see this as anything but what the theory has said. That this is what, this was the major shift. This is what changed the course of Star Wars.
Yeah.
I was hesitant a little bit when that guy was like, "Yeah, I mean, I just assumed that this is what everybody thought." They made that explicit in the movie. But for me personally, I didn't know that, and so I'll take it as genius.
Nice. Blythe, what do you say?
Okay, I have to say I agree with you, Spencer. I think
Whoa.
the movie itself was genius, and I agree with you. Whenever I first watched the movie, this was not on the forefront of my mind. The thoughts that were expressed in this theory, but after having read the theory, I think that it is genius. I think that it totally dives into that transition from the dark, gritty rebellion that we see in these new projects that are coming out, kind of exploring that side of the rebellion, seamlessly linking it to what we all grew up watching in the original trilogy. And I love that that this person thought of this. So I have to say it is
Yes.
genius.
Nice.
Awesome. Well, so for me, this, like I said, this was always one of my, or since it came out, this has always been one of my favorite Star Wars films. And there was just something about it that, like, aside from all the things we talked about, there was something about it that I couldn't put my finger on that just made it so good. And that thing was this theory. Like, what they said in this theory was exactly what it was that made this so good. And not only did that, was this a shift in the movie universe of Star Wars, but this was kind of a shift in the meta Star Wars universe. Like I said, this kind of shifted the way that Star Wars content was being made.
Yeah.
And so there's kind of a double edge to this theory, and both things were good. Like it increased both things. So for me, this is definitely 100% a genius theory. I think I don't know if it could get more genius than this for me.
Awesome.
Love it.
All right. Well, since we've all given our ratings, we're all giving it a genius. That means it's almost time to bring this episode to a close. But before we do, guys, I found something to share that is perfect, that goes great with this theory that we discussed, because this is a fascinating movie detail that you probably did not know about another Star Wars movie.
Okay.
Okay.
So sometimes things happen in movies that you don't realize are subtle references to something else. There's like subtext or you know, like metaphors or that kind of thing. And so that's what this is about. So this is by user SRH64. They pointed out they've got a really sharp eye. Well, they pointed out that in Star Wars: The Rise of Skywalker, on seeing stormtroopers with jetpacks, C-3PO exclaims, "They fly now!" To which Finn asks, "They fly now?" To which Poe responds, "They fly now." This is a reference to how they fly now.
Oh my goodness. Oh my word.
Awesome. Well, this has been Fan Theory Queries. I'm Michael.
I'm Blythe.
And I'm Spencer. In our next episode, we ask, is the Stranger Things series actually a long, drawn-out D&D campaign played by adults? Subscribe to Fan Theory Queries so you don't miss out on that and other fascinating fan theories.